Hello and welcome to Ouidah. I am ifeatu and we'll be doing a mini tour of this ancient city. This video is not a replacement for an actual visit. I'm just sharing my personal experience during my visit and I hope it inspires you to visit. We'll be seeing some ancient sites that was used for slavery and voodoo religion in this town. Some of the different tourist sites include the Ouidah Basilica, the Ouidah Museum that was formerly known as the Portuguese Fort, the Sacred Forest, the Slave Routes and the Gate of No Return. Beyond seeing these sites, my visit will serve as a good opportunity to interact with the local population so as to learn a thing or two about their rich African cultural heritage. I started the tour by visiting the Temple of Pythons, which happens to be one of the centers of Voodoo worship in Ouidah. After a tour of the different shrines and divinities in the site, it climaxed when I picked up a python for a photo shoot. You can check the video. Just opposite this Temple of Pythons stands the Basilica of Wida. It's a beautiful thing to behold two different religions standing face to face with each other without the fights and quarrels that exist among different religious organizations today. The ancestors of the Ouidah people who permitted the European missionaries to build this church opposite their temple of pythons must have had it in mind to teach their descendants the important lesson of religious tolerance and peaceful coexistence. The next site on my list was the Slave Route, which starts at the center of the city and terminates at the Gate of No Return near the Ouidah beach. It spans 4 kilometers from the center of the city to the coast. Millions of Africans who would be enslaved in Europe and America walk these routes on their final moments into slavery. One of the things a tourist will observe on this route is the vast number of voodoo artifacts and statues. Inasmuch as this has little or nothing to do with slavery, it paints a strong picture of voodoo religion of which Ouidah is renowned. During the slave era, slaves are captured from different parts of the present-day Nigeria, Benin, and Togo and are brought to Ouidah. On arrival, the slaves were taken to a place known as Place Chacha, where they will be auctioned, after which a hot metal plate was used to write the names of their white slave owners on their bodies. Once done with this, the slaves are taken to this place, which was then known as Zomai House. The Zomai House was a temporary abode where slaves were kept while they awaited slave ships for onward journey to the Americas and Europe.
Ici, c'est la case des esclaves. Si les esclaves étaient achetés de Niger, de Burkina, c'est ici on les ramène tout le monde d'abord.
Okay.
La case est détruite, nous avons l'emplacement qui est toujours réservé.
Okay.
Nous avons à chaque côté comment les esclaves, nos parents étaient traités comme des moutons.
Oh,
on les bat dans leur bouche.
Mon Dieu.
Voilà, pendant des semaines.
Ouais.
Si toi tu es malade là, on t'enterre là-bas, là on vient de quitter.
Okay.
On veut les gens robustes comme tonton pour pouvoir aller là-bas.
Okay.
C'est pour cela qu'on vous maîtrisait comme ça. On va ceux qui peuvent supporter.
Okay.
Voilà. Donc au milieu nous avons une statue qui est au milieu, ça représente un peu les Tini, les gens qu'on a ramenés d'ici. Nous avons ici par exemple les gens d'Oyo, les Anango. Nous avons ici les 3 têtes qui représentent les gens d'Abomey.
Okay.
Nous avons en haut les 2 fois 5, c'est les gens du Python.
Okay.
Nous avons à gauche là, ça c'est les Nordiques, les Peuls. Les c'était ici, on les gardait tout le monde d'abord pour que le bateau vienne les chercher.
Okay.
Ceux qui sont malades étaient enterrés dans la fosse, le reste là on les tournait de là avant d'aller à la porte de nos retours. Donc c'est la 3e étape ici, la case de Zomai.
Okay.
The memorial of Zumbodi is the nearby mass grave where slaves were disposed or unceremoniously buried.
C'est ce qu'on les enterrait tout le monde.
Okay.
C'est comme une faute de jeunes et de descendants avant. Comme si ça enchanté, c'est tout ça, ils ont... Non, il faut pas. Non, c'est dimanche. On a plein de joie. Voilà, donc c'est tout ça sur...
Ici c'est cimetière ou...
Le cimetière des esclaves. Nos parents ne pouvaient plus supporter pour aller en Amérique, en Europe. C'est ici qu'on les enterrait. Voilà, donc la fosse est fermée en 92 par le président Nicéphore Sego. S'ils étaient au pouvoir, c'est tout ça, ils ont donné l'emplacement. Et comme si la fosse est fermée, nous avons une table qui est devant nous. On appelle ce tableau mur de lamentation. Mur de lamentation.
Mur de lamentation, ok.
Le rouge là, c'est le sang de nos parents. Les noirs, c'est les chiennes. Les marrons, c'est les parents, comment on les souffrait.
Close to this Zomai cemetery is the tree of Forgetfulness, which is the tree where slaves were forced to go round about several times. The reason for this is to make them obedient to their new white slave masters, who would not want any form of rebellion during the journey. The original tree is no more, but this replacement was planted in 1992, even though a local told me the tree is the same that stood here during the slave trade era.
Voilà l'arbre dont je vous ai parlé, qui a plus de 400 ans, c'est planté par le roi Gadia.
Quoi?
L'arbre du retour, ce stable-là, c'est ici que les esclaves devaient faire le tour.
Ok, les esclaves fait le tour.
Voilà ici.
Cet arbre ici.
Oui, ici.
Ah, ça reste ici combien de temps?
Ça fait plus de 400 ans parce que c'est depuis 1727 que le roi Gadia ils ont planté. C'est la maison du roi.
Ok.
Voilà.
Ici c'est la maison du roi.
Voilà, là où le roi il restait pour faire négocier avec les blancs. C'est sa maison.
Ok.
On veut encore une autre personne dans la maison.
Ok.
Voilà. Donc ce temps que vous voyez a été planté par le roi Gadia en 1727.
Ah, ok.
Avant de planter, 2 esclaves sont enterrés.
Ok.
Avant de planter. C'est pour ça, juste aujourd'hui, nous avons l'arbre là qui avait poussé des fruits. Les fruits de l'arbre là, on appelle Yambi Koku.
Les gens mangent ça?
Non, on achète ça pour faire des tisanes traditionnelles.
Ok.
Si quelqu'un le tue, le dieu là, les essentialistes là.
Ok.
C'est ces fruits-là qui guérit ça.
Oh, je
on
vois.
met ça encore dans la chambre, ça protège même la maison avec les enfants.
This tree is the equivalent of the slave spirit attenuation well in Badagry, Nigeria, which slaves were forced to drink from and then forget themselves. The forgetfulness as a result of drinking the water from the well lasts way above 3 months, by which time they must have arrived their new homes in Europe and the Americas. There is also the tree of return, which I did not visit unfortunately. It is however believed that any of the slaves that goes around the tree 3 times would return to their land of origin even when they die in slavery. This route ends at the coast, of which today is represented with an artistic work of art, otherwise known as the Gate of No Return. At the Gate of No Return during my visit, there was renovation exercise going on, so I could not get very close to seeing it. The next site to visit was the sacred forest of Masay, who was the first king of Ouidah. This site is also known as Masay, and it is the resting place of the king of Masay. The king would want his death to remain a secret, and it was believed he turned into one of the iroko trees within this forest. An annual festival is held every year in his memory, right here in this forest. Not very far from here is the Ouidah Museum, which was formerly known as the Portuguese Fort. This fort was built in 1721 on a piece of land gifted to the Portuguese by the king of Ouidah. It was named São João Baptista da Ajuda. The Portuguese would hold on to this fort until 1958. This fort made it to the Guinness Book of Records for being the smallest territory belonging to a country within another country. It belonged to the Portuguese within the then Dahomey. It remained under Portuguese control until 1961, when the Portuguese occupants were given a quit ultimatum by the then Dahomey government. In an unlikely response, the Portuguese occupants burned down these forts in rebellion when they were about to leave for Portugal. In an act of repentance, the Portuguese government eventually reconstructed and formally acknowledged this structure or fort belongs to the Dahomey government, which is now Benin Republic in 1975. The last of the places to visit was the Casa do Brasil, which at the time was the residence of a Brazilian governor and a Portuguese family. The center has several arts exhibited here, even though I could not go in for a tour because it was closed on a Sunday when I visited. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and our next trip will be to Gomvie. Please kindly like this video and subscribe if you find our content interesting.